to Encounter Proposal, the podcast where two friends make a hypothetical tabletop game, one misstep at a time. As always, I am Game Master Kyle, joined of course by our very own Critical Failure.
I'm Will.
This is going to be our very first episode.
Yeah. I mean, we've recorded one, but it's not listenable, so
No, it's got some
that's not
notes
coming
though.
out. Oh yeah,
Maybe at some point.
it's got to maybe at some point, maybe on a rainy day.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll get
but
there.
but
We'll
for
get
now,
there.
that's staying in
In the vault.
my folders. Yeah, staying in the deep vault. How are you, man? You good?
Yeah. I've been doing pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, yeah. I know that this week you've been trying to homebrew a fox race, was it?
Yes, yeah. As Planescape came out, and no real player options other than some feats and backgrounds came out, I kind of got a little bit fed up with the very little that was coming out, and with the death of Primal Druid, I thought enough's enough. We need more races, so I made Fox People, which I think was in second edition. I kind of should have looked into it.
How's that gone? So I kind of know what I'm getting myself into here.
Okay, pretty good. I'm quite happy with it so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got it's got the Kenda original option with the big Fey pocket thing that it had before, where it could have like a little random magic table of like a wild magic table of options that you could roll on to pull an item out, which everybody seemed to really like with Kenda, although it was a little bit broken. And then they just got rid of it for taunting, which wasn't great. So I thought I'd try and bring that back at least for my table.
I feel like taunting should just be a free action, right?
I always thought that. I always thought it was a free action. I've let people do it, so that's not good.
I feel like we find out stuff like that a little bit later, and they're like, "You can now use a reaction once per turn." We're like, "Oh shit!"
You mean like making the ooze people like a month before they announce
Oh
it in
man,
Spelljammer?
yeah. So, a crucial big bad to one of my campaigns, and one of the big puzzles was that there's like a sentient ooze person, and trying to figure out their weaknesses and how that works. And then about 2 weeks later, Wizards of the Coast announced an official ooze person playable race. That was fun.
How different are they? How
Oh, so different. It's
yeah.
really irritating. It's going to make it really hard to canonize um, the official ooze people in my world that I've made. So, I mean,
I can see that
it's
being
going to be a
really
nightmare because we both run concurrent D&D um, fantasy campaigns.
yes. Yeah, we're both
Yeah.
well, we're both running one each for us and another player, and then another player is running one for us too. It's a lot going
Yeah,
on.
we solved the infinite DM problem by all becoming infinite DMs. Turns out if you just lean into it,
Yeah, just perpetual motion, just one week, just one different campaign. It definitely doesn't get confusing.
it's never difficult and it never mucks with our timetables.
No, I've
So
never
yeah,
asked in character for the wrong person from the wrong campaign for something.
we're both D&D heads. Kyle, I know, has a bit more experience than I do, but I know a bit more about the die tabletop, Pathfinder tabletop, Marvel's one that they're trying to come out with, which looks like a
Yes,
mess.
I
Oh
think
my God.
it's I think that's done now. I think that came out
Yeah,
August. I don't know.
I think it was meant to.
I don't know if
Whether
it
they
got
managed it or
pushed.
not.
It did seem a bit of a mess, though. I know you said that like crits were a bit weird.
Crits are weird. You roll three d6. One of them is special, and if the special one lands on a one and the other two land on sixes, that's a critical because of 616 is the universe.
Yeah,
That seems like a stretch.
which like I get. Do you? I don't know how far the like multiverses go, but if you wanted to play in like an alternate universe, like if a what if situation, do you change the crit?
I would, but I don't think that's. I think the idea is that you're already in one.
Oh, okay.
They've
But
said every game is. Oh no, that's Die. Die says that every game is canon, which
I
is
was gonna
sick.
say,
But I don't know, really. I would say that the Marvel tabletop has very good player size rules. So, like a large character is easier to hit and does more damage, and a small character is harder to hit and does less damage.
I always find it weird that like halflings weren't more difficult to hit. That always felt like something that should have been a part of their in a sheet.
Yeah, and to be honest, these gripes are why we've started this.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
like every pair of um, university degree having white men in their 20s who start a podcast, we think we can do it better.
Exactly. We can
Um,
just do it better.
we're built different, built separately, and so yeah. But we haven't. I will say up front, we haven't discussed it at all.
Not really, no. So we're sort of just bringing our forefront ideas to each other blind. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see how this goes.
So welcome to the table with us, um, as I pitch my My Little Pony inspired World War II simulator to
Oh,
my
I'm back in.
good friend Mark.
I'm back in. Tell me more.
I didn't think I'd get this far.
I mean, I know that your original couple pitches were interesting.
Hey, one of them's still the pitch. So,
I mean, oof.
so what kind of world were you thinking? What genre were you thinking?
Well, I mean, if we're tying it to genre, I think fantasy is where our wheelhouse lies. But I do think that it needs some changes, as we've played in stuff like Eberron a little bit and Spelljammer, which I guess is further from
Oh,
sort
I
of
love
generic
Spelljammer.
fantasy. It's so interesting to have stuff like that. So I guess like yeah, fantasy, but pushing it a little bit. How about you? What do you
Yeah.
think?
I was thinking fantasy, and I think I was leaning a bit towards. I know you like Brothers Grimm, and I
I
like
do.
Mary Shelley. Jesus, I've had some sherry. So Mary Shelley style horror, um, or like Jekyll and Hyde style horror, would be fun.
Okay, I
As
know
far as
we've
like
both worked with that a
spaceships,
lot.
yeah, as far as like spaceships are concerned, I don't know. I like the idea that fantasy is like there's still kings and there's still executions, but you could be non-binary and a goblin, and that's chill. Like that's the fun of it, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I think fantasy, in the way it's done, like modern fantasy, is good.
Yeah, but I think one of the best parts about fifth edition, although a lot of people may argue against it, as a sort of basis, is that it's so easy to like manipulate. Like it's so easy to sort of meld. So I think with our one, I'd like it to be as loose as possible because I do
Okay,
think
yeah, I
that's
like that.
one of its strengths. One of the strengths of a good
I
tabletop is how loose it can be.
On that, I would like a challenge for us to be that um you couldn't use another system to tell the story.
Yeah, no, I think
So
that's a really strong one.
yeah, you can't just homebrew your Pathfinder campaign into this world. We want something which might be impossible, and it might lead us down a stupid rabbit hole. But I think that's good. I
I
think
don't.
that's maybe not a possible game, but it's good content.
I think if we really put ourselves to it, I think it's possible. Because with things like Die, I don't think that you could ever really run that in 5th edition and have the
Oh
same
God,
sort of
no!
feel.
Die is For those who don't know, Die is a tabletop made by I think, Kieran Gillen is his name. Um, that accompanies a graphic novel series, and it's essentially what if you got Jumanji'd into your childhood um, tabletop adventure once you're an adult. What would it be like to be transported back to a world that you made when you were 12 and 16 or whatever, and what the decisions were and how they affect you now? And it's very interesting.
It sounds really fun. I don't have any experience with it, but I want to.
It seems sick. I really want to play it. I've read the rule book about 30 times. Um,
I know
so
you said
yeah,
it's
again,
very
we've
in
got like,
depth.
yeah, got a lot of notes. Got a lot of notes. I've listened to the guy's lectures a couple of times as well, and he is in
Oh,
depth himself. So
yeah.
it's quite the thing. So fantasy,
Yes.
sick. What kind of story do we want?
Well, you mentioned a sort of Brothers Grimm. thing, which I think if you sort of go into that kind of horror, I think there's so many like elements that you can add. Like it's gonna be if you want it to be horror, you can have like you're not gonna have a load of levels and a load of abilities. Like you're gonna be kind of tied to very like fundamental basics about your character, and that might be as much as like you have a job in this fantasy world, and that's about as far as you get. Like something like Call of Cthulhu, where it's sort of
I mean, like Call of Cthulhu, yeah.
where your job
I
sort
I
of
think
dictates that.
I think that's a cool idea, but I also think we should have cool powers. I think
Yes.
if we could find some middle ground that's like either magic is so normal that you've got cool powers, or you've just been given them like akin to like a superhero story.
Hmm.
Um, but like the most you build your character is like before they had the powers on around them, and then the class that you get is like forced upon you, or just like your position in society helps with that.
That could be quite fun. I think that could work. Well, I think that's going to be one of our strengths is that we've got so many different influences with tabletops. Like I'm probably going to bring up Call of Cthulhu quite a bit, which is sort of going to tie into this. So with Call of Cthulhu, the way it works is, with the sanity system that you get, where you sort of certain things in the seventh edition of Call of Cthulhu. I haven't played the earlier ones, but I'm sure they work similarly. The way it works is that your sheet gives you a base sanity level, and then certain actions that you take or certain things that your character views can knock that sanity score down. So I think maybe if we want it to be like a horror thing, maybe using your powers inflicts you in like a negative way, like spells do in Call of Cthulhu.
Maybe we have like this Brothers Grimm fantasy. There's a lot of curses going around,
Yeah.
so maybe you're like maybe it's more akin to getting dark powers in a video game because you've gone down the negative route, and the opportunity to go down a positive route is also there. You get like light powers,
Yeah.
because that's always fun. That like you're not punished for being horrifically scarred by the world that you're in. You're rewarded for either like maintaining sanity through it, or getting um, like scared.
Yeah, I really like that. So it'd be on like a honor system, I want to say is the word, where you sort of like switch between like good choices and bad choices, and that'll sort of
Yeah,
influence how your sheet progresses.
like a morality
That's the one.
thing where like you can only when you level up you can spend essentially probably skill points, light
Hmm.
or dark skill points maybe.
Yeah.
I guess that's up to the DM whether you've been naughty or nice, I guess.
Yeah. I
Kind
I
of
I
fun. I like
can
that.
I really like that. I think that'd be really fun. I think it would lean towards sessions have or having like a pre-written one shot to understand it, which I think could be a fun thing to like sort of develop in the future.
Yeah, maybe like a day one kind of brief that's not like every day one is the same for every campaign, but it's like your players gain their powers somehow on this day. um
Yeah, like you run through the backstory almost.
yeah, even if it's not recent, you run through like a 10 years ago kind of thing.
Yeah, isn't there another tabletop that does that? Have you?
Um, you're thinking of Die again.
I am thinking of Diagame. See, I haven't played it. I'm
No,
not aware.
it makes you play your childhood game for one session and then throws you into it again when you're like 40 years old,
Ah, okay. Yeah, so
which
something.
is very smart.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. That could be quite fun. Where you just sort of like play through everybody's backstory. Because I know the what was the offshoot of Dimension 20? They did something similar, right? Where like
No, the
parts of the
offshoot of
first session.
Crit.
Oh, was it where they did like a couple set or like a session would lean to like one person's backstory?
Oh no, yeah, that was offshoot of 2020.
I can't.
I
Is
thought you
it
meant the
Worlds
one where
Beyond?
they did the whole backstory.
Hmm.
Well, beyond, oh God,
Numbers?
yeah. Let's throw them at another podcast.
Yeah.
Um,
It's always a
I
good way to
believe that's what
start.
it's called. If it's not called that, you don't get to go view it. You have to listen to us.
You're gonna stay here.
Um, yeah. Sorry. that one is probably better than this. It's got Brennan on it, and he's like Jesus as a man.
Sell
So
yourself short. We're
um,
doing pretty good so far. You could
we're
be
not.
Jesus.
We can't uh, uh, claim to be Brennan Lee Mulligan. That's not going to be. That's not going to land well. Um,
They love it.
it's provably false. So we're not that good. Um, yeah. So high fantasy, but you're going to be mentally scarred.
Yes.
Um, I did have an idea for how different races come about.
Okay.
And and stick with me here. It's kind of inspired by MK Ultra.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Um, so the idea would be like you got your elves, you got your humans, you got your gnomes, you got your dwarves,
Mhm.
right? They're all running about, and the world is fine. And then a curse happens, or some sort of horrible plague,
Mhm.
and the plague turns those infects into different creatures. So elves become orcs, dwarves become something, gnomes become goblins, humans become zombies or werewolves or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then over time, they become common and feral versions of these races. So you can play as a common one. So if you wanted to play as like a common goblin, you could, but there's still like feral ones running around. And
Yeah.
then the plague happens again, and you get ogres and hobgoblins and gnoll and vampire.
Yeah.
I think
That could
that
be
could
really
be an
fun.
interesting way
I think
to
it
be
could.
like. I think it spirals quite nicely, and I
Yeah.
don't feel like I've played something where they're like, this is why everyone has pointy ears, except that they have pointy ears.
No, I think that'd be really interesting. It'd be good for the world building of it. Of like, it could very easily lean into affecting the mechanics of the certain like races. Whereas like I know there are monstrous races in certain tabletops that don't really tend to treat you as such. I guess
Yeah, I
sometimes it's up to the DM, but I think it should partially be reflected by your stats.
I play a reborn in yours, and we have to like we've changed it so that he takes double damage from radiant, and so that he can't be
Yes.
healed by healing spells and
Yeah, it's like
that kind of stuff.
mending as
Because
a
the book,
construct.
yeah, the book like kind of babies you with it a little bit. It's like, now we'll give you normal stuff.
Yeah, like advantage on death saves, which is fun, but then it's like vampires don't really like Dampiers as a race don't really get any negatives. Like you can just stand out in the sun and it
Yeah,
just
your blade.
yeah, it just fully breaks the fun part to me of playing a
Yeah.
vampire.
So maybe stuff like elves to orcs, if that's like a direct transformation, they share some traits, but not all traits. And then like one of them's let's say like common and the other one's monstrous,
Mhm.
and they've got like different traits because of that as well. Could be cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be really fun.
Sick. Yeah. I think that would work really well. I think that's a good basis
It's a good jumping off
for a
point.
tabletop.
So the sort of jump off is it's a horror esque kind of Brothers Grimm style mini campaign. How long are you thinking? Because I know like certain games lean to being shorter, which is I
Oh
think
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're like
Some are
a
like 5 sessions.
yeah because I think what I was saying earlier with like having a less fleshed out sheet is very much leaning towards like a more interesting like night of telling stories than like a year.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I feel like maybe we do both if that's not too insane.
No, I think you could have optional rules for like short and long form.
Yeah, I think the idea that we know how many people play one shots and to build a game that's like one shot ready but has a campaign could be fun. I do have a pitch, and we might end on this for a big bad.
Okay,
Um,
so this is
I
for
was
the
thinking,
potential pre-written adventure.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. Just a thought, because I know that how we run games is we make scary villains. We make horrific.
we try
Um,
to.
yeah. I know you had a mob leader kill, round up and make the the players choose to kill one of their friends.
Yeah,
Um,
they had a little group, and the villain found out where they lived, and his next thought was, go to their house and round up all the friends that they have gathered at this house and make them choose who he decapitates, which I
yeah,
think you
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
need.
yeah. So my idea was a Wicker Man. If because you said Brothers Grimm, and I immediately thought Wicker Man,
Yeah, okay.
like a ent that is mad at how people are treating nature.
That could be very fun. I think that could be really interesting.
Because I don't think that's. I think I think that's an opinion that people lean towards, like when they've had to make Poison Ivy um, sort of like a more empathetic villain because people started to side with her.
Yeah.
I think you can look at someone being like, "You're mistreating the trees. I've made the Lorax. Fuck.
Oh
I've made
no.
the bad guy is a Wicker Lorax, and he speaks in rhyme.
He
He
only
speaks in
speaks in
Doctor
rhyme.
Seuss-esque rhyme.
Oh no, I don't think he's scary anymore.
I disagree. I think something. I'm thinking Ultron when he's when he's singing the Pinocchio song.
Oh, okay, okay.
You know the Pinocchio song.
I can't do that scary old song.
Giant Wicker Lorax.
Mhm.
No, yeah, Scary Wicker Man. I
No,
think that could be
I
fun.
think it works. I think that does work. I like that.
Cool. Right. So this is our first one. We don't know how we close these. We probably have a send off by now. If if this is your first one that you're listening to, you know us personally. That's
Most likely.
that's the only option. If this is the first one you're listening to, hello. We should have coffee sometime. I feel comfortable saying that.
Do you?
Um, yeah, yeah. Anyone who stumbled across this shit and doesn't know who we are,
Thank you very much for listening.
well done. I'd like, you're an interesting person. How do you look around for podcasts? Um, yeah, so whatever our send off is, that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.